Hello, friends. This is Worm. I appreciate your continued patience and I appreciate all the birthday wishes. It was a great past couple days, but we are back and we have some stuff to talk about. Of course, being the dev insights and the TWAB that came up recently, because I have some thoughts on some things that are really overhyped, and we're going to start with that. Of course, before we do, we make videos almost every day, with the exception of the past few days because it was my birthday, talking about Destiny 2. So go down there, hit the sub button. And now let me talk about the big thing here, which is in the TWAB from Thursday, right? And that is that Bungie has finally, after a decade, brought us the ability to access our vault from orbit, right? Woohoo! No, okay. And this, it's getting so much hype. You know, lots of people are saying, oh, we're so excited, like we're finally getting to access our vault from orbit, but like it's so long overdue that it doesn't matter anymore, right? Like we've got the loadout system, right? Over here on PC, which I play on PC. Over here on PC, it's not gonna matter, right? And there's a couple reasons why. Okay, like everybody's making it out to be like it's this huge deal, like yes, we're finally gonna be able to access our vault from orbit, which not a bad thing, right? Like I'm not sitting here saying, oh, it's bad that we're getting this. Like it is a good thing, but I think it's getting a little bit more hype than it really should be, right? Because here's the reality of it. We have, of course, the app that we've been using for years. If you're on PC like myself, we've got DIM, right? We've got DIM, and I use DIM constantly, right? We've got the loadout system, and here's where I wanted to start. The loadout system, in my, like for me personally, it makes the Vault from Orbit thing totally redundant, right? I use the same couple of loadouts on each character, right? Like, I got Strand Titan, I got Void Titan, I got Solar Titan, I got Arc Titan, PvP, PvE, 10 different builds for Titans. And on those 10 different builds, I keep the 10 different weapons, or the 10 different weapon sets and armor sets on my character anyways. So I'm not having to switch armor and weapons from the vault, right? Here and there, I might have to move something, but if I'm moving something, typically it's from character to character. It's not from, the vault to a character. It's from character to character. I need something off my Warlock, so I use DIM to move it over to my Titan, right? So again, I think that there's a huge number of people in the Destiny community that are going to have that same issue. Also, sorry if I sound sick. Allergies, man, they're sucking right now, right? But yeah, it's not going to change all that much. But the next thing, this is a very important one, guys. Be honest with yourselves. How many times are you sitting in orbit and you're like, oh, I need to get something out of my vault, right? Like typically when I need to change a loadout, I'm already in game. I'm in a Crucible game. I'm in a Strike. I'm in a Nightfall. I'm doing something in game, and we can't access our vault from in game, right? And that's where it matters. Right? It's like, oh, yay, we don't have to go to the tower to get to our vault anymore, but we still have to go to orbit. We still have to leave the raid and go to orbit, right? Or, of course, you can just use your phone. You can just use DIM, which is what I use, and DIM is fantastic. And here's the thing. Bungie would have to do a lot, to make me not want to use DIM. Like, DIM is such a wonderful tool. Like, the ability to search by perks, by weapons, by damage types, by, all these different factors is such a big deal. Like, Bungie just doesn't have that in game, and I don't think it's ever going to come to Destiny 2, right? Like I don't think Bungie is realistically going to put a search system, in Destiny 2 so that we can search stuff. Okay, I'm looking for my Abyss Defiant here with Incandescent, right? So I go in there, type it in, blah blah blah, whatever. They're not going to do that. So DIM is still going to be the king. I think what this buff is going to be most beneficial for is console players, and even then, I think most console players are still going to just use their app. Or the DIM app, or the Ishtar Collective app, or whatever apps, that we have. But I wanted to get my 2 cents out there on that. Like, yeah, it's a cool change. It's a neat change. It's not going to change much, though. Like, the most it might change is, like, after a Nightfall, I get something that seems pretty decent. Oh, I can put it straight into my vault, where I'm never going to take it out of, right? Because, like, that's how I am. I know there's a lot of y'all out there that are probably, sitting at, 590-something spaces filled in your vault that do the same thing, right? Look, we're not judging anybody, right? Go watch Dada's vault cleaning video. I know I should. But I also have over here the stuff from the was this the dev insights? Yeah, the dev insights. And I wanted to kind of go over some of these, not all of them, but there's some big changes I'm super excited about. Starting off, of course, with glaives. Next season, glaives are getting a massive buff, right? Some nerfs, and we'll talk about those in a second, but the buffs to PvE are tremendous, and including the exotic glaives. Like the exotic glaives, I think are potentially going to become maybe not meta. The Titan exotic glaive might become meta, but maybe not meta, but they're going to be good, right? So I'm just going to go over these real quick. So what they're doing next season, they're increasing the projectile speed of all glaives by 30%. They're increasing projectile damage by 25%, but they're also decreasing projectile damage in PvP. Now, nice thing about the PvP changes, you're still going to be able to two-shot with every single glaive, like every single archetype of glaive. Like they're not changing it so that, you know, you can't get a two-shot kill with a glaive anymore. I think it's more so for, you know, the next buff that we're going to talk about here in a second. But they've also reduced the time between firing and meleeing by a pretty substantial amount. So before it was 3/4 of a second. Like, okay, yeah, like that felt bad. Not gonna lie, you know, you shoot, then you had to wait 3/4 of a second, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in game, that's a long time. Right, like that's enough time for most weapons in the game to potentially kill you, or not most, but a bunch of weapons to kill you in the Crucible before you can even melee attack. So they're reducing it to 0.2 seconds, which is lightning fast. So you're gonna be able to shoot melee much faster, which is fantastic. But here's the big one. This is what I'm excited about. The shields are getting a massive rework. So Bungie, they said a couple months ago in a TWAB or in a dev insight, I can't remember what it was, that they were toying around with the idea of glaive shields and making them recharge over time. Well, next season we are getting that, and now, or starting in season 23, right? Yeah, season 23, glaive shields, as long as you're holding them in your hands, not just equipped, but you have them out and you're in their hand, they're in your hands. Not only would you get glaive energy for hitting with a projectile, but you will also increase, like you'll gain shield at 1% of the shield per second that you're holding it, right? This is amazing. And like I said, like these exotic glaives are about to become so good, especially Edge of Action. And again, we'll talk more about that in just a second. But this is something that I felt glaives have needed for a long time, right? And I think Bungie made a conservative choice here by 1% per second. I think that honestly, you could increase that to 2 or maybe even 3% per second, but we'll start out at 1% just to see how it works. But you know, glaives have always felt like a weapon that you need to have out constantly, right? To use the shield, you're meleeing. I mean, most of your kills are coming from melee anyways, you know, and then you have the shield aspect. This is just building into that even more, which I think is absolutely fantastic. Of course, to offset this in PvP, they are nerfing it a little bit. So the base damage resistance is still 50%. However, against primaries and melee attacks, it's now only 30% damage reduction, right? So against shotguns, snipers, supers, grenades, it's going to feel the same as it ever did. But against melees and primary ammo weapons, you're going to be killed a lot faster. Now, of course, as hype as I am for this change, well, actually, you know, we'll hold that thought once we get down here to the exotic glaives. Let me go down to the exotic glaives. The exotic glaives are getting some changes as well. Okay, the exotic, I'm going to go over each of them. I'm going to start with Edge of Action because I have high concerns with Edge of Action in PvP, and we're going to talk about it first. So, Edge of Action, when you're passing through the bubble, you're now getting a bonus to your reload speed, handling, and a small amount of stacking bonus damage in addition to the overshield. So this is really nice. Okay, here's what my thoughts are. Okay, the bonus to reload speed for passing through the baby bubble, right? And handling, that's fantastic. How is the stacking damage bonus going to work? I don't know. Is it going to be like, you know, you get a ×1 surge, and as you get kills, it increases maybe? Or is it going to be like every time you pass in and out, it increases? I don't know how it's going to work. So we'll have to see about that. But it says in addition to the overshield. Now, interestingly enough, Edge of Action, if I'm not mistaken, which I haven't used it in a long time, okay, so be patient with me here. But if I'm not mistaken, Edge of Action never gave you an overshield when you passed through it, right? Like it would only do that if you had on Helm of Saint 14. So are they making this a base kit thing? I don't know. We'll have to see, but that's super awesome. But they are also reducing the health of the baby bubble from 8,000 down to 2,400 to account for its increase in uptime and its improved effects. Here's my concern right? Here's the big concern I have with Edge of Action, especially in Trials of Osiris. Yes, they are increasing the health or they're decreasing the health to 2400, blah, blah, blah. 2400 is roughly the same amount of health it would need to kill 6 Guardians. So in the Crucible, you are going to have to kill the equivalent, you and your team are going to have to kill the equivalent of 6 Guardians to get rid of this bubble. The concern that I have, and Bungie, I really hope you hear this, the concern that I have is that you will have 3 Bubble Titans all using Edge of Action, and when the round starts, they're going to pull out Edge of Action, right? And they're going to play passively, right? Or they might just come up and attack and get 1 or 2 shots off to help charge that shield so that they can get to a point where they can shoot a shield on the points, right? And once that shield is on the point, then they can go inside of it, right? And they're immune while they're in it. Then, yeah, you and your team, your 2 other teammates can shoot that bubble, but when it breaks, by the time it breaks, is another Titan going to be able to shoot another bubble shield down and basically repeat 3 times until the point is captured. That is a big concern that I have. Now, I know trials rounds, they're only a minute long, and technically based on this, the counter that you'd have, you would need 100 seconds to get a full charge without dealing any damage, right? But of course, simply shooting 1 person with the glaive, like that's going to increase the amount of shield you get to, like, what is it, like 30 or 40%? I think it's 40% glaive energy. But if not, if you put on Lucent Blade, it will give you more energy, right? So, I mean, getting 1 shot off on an enemy, just damage, not even a kill, just damage, is going to give you that bubble that you're going to be able to put down on the point. Then, of course, if you're using Helm of Saint 14, or according to what I'm reading here, right, you're going to have an overshield as well, right? Then, of course, you could do a Bastion overshield. Like it's going to be overshield hell inside of Trials based on what I'm reading here. And of course, I don't know, maybe we're going to have some more PvP effects so that it's less effective in Trials or something like that. I don't know. But just what I'm reading here, this is potentially not going to be good in Trials, especially if you are, tripling up on Void Titans. And we already know, with Void Titans, if you got triple Void Titans, it's difficult to win because they run in there, they put a barricade down. By the time that barricade's gone, they put another one down, right? And so you have to play around this, and they've got an overshield. Like, not only do they have a barricade blocking your shots, they have an overshield. So if you start to get close, you're already at a disadvantage, right? This could potentially enhance that. So I think that Bungie really, really take into consideration how Edge of Action is going to play out in the Crucible. But let's move on to the other 2 exotic glaives. Edge of Intent. This is a much needed buff with Edge of Intent. They're changing the effect of the healing turret to now synergize with Solar 3.0. So when you get hit with one of those little healing things, instead of getting healing, you're going to get restoration, probably just restoration times 1, I would assume, and you're going to be cured too. So that's pretty cool. They're also increasing the area of effect radius of the little turret from 8 to 8 meters. I think it's currently at 5, but they're increasing it to 8 meters. So that's a big change. Again, I don't see this being meta. I don't see this being better than Lumina. Like, Lumina technically has infinite range because you shoot one of those little dudes off and they just go till they hit somewhere, until they bounce off a wall, right? But they're also increasing Edge of Intent's magazine from 4 to 5. And then Edge of Concurrence, the Lightning Seekers now apply Jolt, right? So it's just synergizing with Arc 3.0. But yeah, that's the exotic glaives, and that's the glaive buffs that are coming. Again, very excited for just about every single aspect of the glaive buffs that are coming, but Edge of Action has me concerned in Trials of Osiris. Now, some other big changes. Sniper rifles getting a flat 15% buff. This is a big deal because snipers, I mean, they're not the worst option, but increasing them by 15% more damage, I think Whisper the Worm is going to become a DPS meta option potentially, right? Darcy, probably not, because Darcy's just, it sucks regardless. Cloud Strike, though, I think also will see a surge in usage, which I think is awesome. But moving on, Vex Mythoclast is getting a big change, big change. So, of course, Vex Mythoclast just got a nerf a couple of weeks ago to its overall fire rate, which in turn reduces its DPS, and it's just general feels good. But it's getting a major buff here. It's getting a number 1, the same thing that auto rifles are getting, which auto rifles and Vex Mythoclast are getting a 10% damage boost against red bars, but also Vex Mythoclast is getting a 25% boost against bosses, and the big one, when in linear fusion rifle mode, Vex Mythoclast will now deal 200% more damage to champions. And this is a big deal because this is going to be a beefy gun to use. So if we get anti-champion fusion rifle mods at some point, which I know we have unstoppable champion fusion rifle mods, so we're probably not going to get that next season, but regardless, Vex is going to be phenomenal at killing champions, and I think that's a fantastic buff. Also, we finally got insight to the Thorn catalyst and some changes that are coming to Thorn. The first change just coming to Thorn in general is when you pick up a remnant, it can now overflow the magazine. This was a complaint of mine. I've had it for a long time. Like, the remnant only gives you 4 bullets back, and Thorn has a 9-round magazine. Like, it didn't feel very good. Now, in the Crucible, which is where Thorn is going to be most popular, it's going to give you 4 rounds back for every kill that you get, as long as you're picking up the remnant, meaning that you can potentially overflow your magazine by a lot, right? And the max is 40 rounds, so a 40 round of the magazine Thorn. Pretty awesome. But the catalyst here, the catalyst is going to give us a flat 20 range. It's going to give us a flat 10 stability. And when you get a kill or pick up a remnant, it grants additional range, handling, and mobility. Doesn't say what those are. I would imagine the mobility is probably just, the same as like tier 10 mobility, right? Maybe a sprint speed scaler. I don't know. Handling, it would probably increase handling. And I think range, it'd probably just add on like 10 range. Like, I don't think they'd go nuts with the range or anything like that. But that's Thorn. There's some other changes in here, but again, I'm kind of covering the things that I feel like are the biggest and kind of most important stuff here. Also, Osteostriga is getting a massive nerf to the poison damage. It is not going to deal as much. Its poison damage is going to, match the standard necrotic grip poison, so that's a big deal. Let me read through here. They're making kinetic trimmers easier to use, and precision instrument is going to deal, or enhanced precision instrument is going to deal more damage. Do not get all excited about it, because when I first saw enhanced precision instrument being brought up, I thought we were going to be able to easily 3-tap everybody in the Crucible. Not the case. It's only increasing the max stacks from 26% to 30%. So it sounds like stacks 1 through 4 are going to be the same, but once you hit that max stack with enhanced precision instrument, it's going to be doing 30% more damage instead of 26. But yeah, sidearms and pulse rifles are also getting changes to kinetic trimmers, so they're easier to proc. And yeah, that's kind of it for what we've got currently, and kind of what I wanted to talk about. There is some other stuff in here about the near future and far future. I really don't see a reason to cover those right now. We'll kind of cover those maybe as it gets a little closer, but those are the changes I'm pretty excited to see. Again, the Volt change, I don't care about. And I think it's getting overhyped. Like, so many people are like saying, oh my God, like, it's the best thing ever. It's really not. Like, it's so long overdue. We have so many other just better tools that it's pointless, right? And not entirely pointless, but like, to PC players, actually, I think it is kind of pointless, right? Dim is just so much better. And especially if you're using a dual monitor setup like I do, Dim is always open right there on my right side screen. I play Destiny on the left one, Dim on the right one. Left one's on this side, by the way, because the camera's backwards. But yeah, that's it for me, guys. Of course, like I said, I appreciate your patience for lack of uploads for the past couple days. I've just been enjoying not doing anything for my birthday, which was on Thursday. So yeah. Oh, and appreciate the birthday wishes too. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on these changes. I especially want to hear your thoughts on the edge of action for the Titan exotic glaive. Like, that's kind of a really, really hot point that I have. And I'm concerned. I am concerned that that's going to be very problematic in trials, but tell me what you think about that, and tell me what you think about the other changes that are coming. But with that being said, do me a favor, watch the videos you see on the end screen, because for whatever reason, YouTube thinks you'll like them. Like this video, share it, blah, 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 and subscribe for more daily Destiny content. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see y'all next time. Bye for now, guys.